Beneath these rolling hills lie rich veins of gold, exploited for the benefit of the few at the expense of the many, in a land where the reward for speaking out is sudden death. Who will protect those who demand justice for the common people? Only those with the courage of their convictions.
I really wanted to go to the Holy Land, but I didn't want to go as a pious pilgrim. And when I heard about the Christian peacemakers and the work they were doing there, I said, that is how I want to go to the Holy Land. And so I went on a delegation, and what I saw I liked, and within 6 months I took training.
Over the next 6 years, Father Bob Holmes worked in the cause of peace in Iraq, Palestine, Arizona, Mexico, and northern and eastern Canada.
Our motto is getting in the way, and it is a double meaning. The first Christians called themselves the Way, Jesus' Way. But getting in the way also means getting in the way of violence. And we go into very violent situations, and we try to dream ways of reducing that violence.
But shortly after fighting started in Iraq, the peacemakers faced their darkest hour.
The abduction of our peacemakers, Jim Loney and Tom Fox and Norman Kember and Harmeet Sudin last November had a profound effect on peacemakers around the world, because all of a sudden it was very real, the risks we take.
After several months of captivity, 3 of the peacemakers were rescued by U.S. and British forces. But Tom Fox was found dead, with marks suggesting torture.
We've always known we risked dying, that we were willing to risk our lives for peace. But now it actually happened, and it happened in a very dramatic way, and it could have been any one of us.
Today, Father Bob works for peace in a river valley in Colombia, where official travel advisories warn of narco-terrorism, kidnappings and assassinations, brutal acts which the Colombian military is unable or unwilling to prevent. Father Bob is in the trading port of Barranca. Home to Colombia's largest oil refinery, Barranca is where the military, communist guerrillas, and shadowy paramilitary forces struggle for control of the land and its people.
There's been a war going on here for 50 years, and the people here have become accustomed to it. But for somebody coming from Canada, we are not accustomed to it, and it really strikes your heart when you talk to people who have never lived any other way.
Father Bob's determination to reduce the violence has made him friends and enemies.
There was one time that I was quite frightened. There had been death threats against our team, and it was coming from the paramilitaries, and we heard that our names were on the death list. They have a death list. They have people they're looking for that they want to kill. And so do the guerrillas. They have a death list. And so does the Colombian army have a death list, people they want to kill.
Bob and the other members of this Christian peacemaker team have acted as human shields for peasant farmers, negotiators with armed rebels, and advocates of nonviolent resistance. A day rarely passes without a new crisis, and today is no exception. word arrives of trouble in the nearby town of Santa Rosa, renowned for deposits of gold. For generations, peasant miners have worked the Santa Rosa hills. Recently, they had to stop when the area became a battleground for soldiers and guerrillas. After government troops secured the area, the peasant miners came back, but they may not be here for long. Colombian officials have awarded mining rights to multinational companies. And the Colombian military has begun a program of intimidation to force peasant miners off their ancestral land. Those who object have been threatened. Some have been killed, including the outspoken leader of the local miners' union.
It was the Colombian army that killed the leader in September 19th, Alejandro Uribe.
Alejandro's body was discovered dressed in the combat fatigues of a communist guerrilla.
They said they'd killed a guerrilla, but everybody in the communities out there knows that he wasn't a guerrilla. He's just a very strong voice for the protection of the people in the area.
If military commanders thought the local people would be intimidated by Alejandro's death, they were wrong. The community staged a protest rally, and the miners elected a new leader.
His life is always in danger, especially when he's alone.
The day after tomorrow, Teófilo is scheduled to speak at a miners' rally. The military may lie in wait. Christian peacemakers plan to travel to Santa Rosa to act as human shields.
I want to pray for those people who are at Santa Rosa right now who are seeking justice, who are calling for it. They're standing together shoulder to shoulder and saying, we will not be heard. And that they'll have the courage to continue and the wisdom to know what will be effective, and that they'll be safe, and that our accompaniment will help for that safety. I pray to the Lord.
Father Bob doesn't include a prayer for his own safety. Perhaps he should. In the volatile northeast province of Colombia, Father Bob Holmes speeds upriver. His destination is the town of Santa Rosa, where recently a union leader was killed by the Colombian military after voicing opposition to a plan to award mining rights to multinationals. Bob's mission is to protect newly elected union leader Teófilo from the same fate. Sharing the responsibility and the danger is fellow Christian peacemaker Joel Klassen.
Joel is a wonderful Canadian peacemaker who's been working on the team for a couple of years here now. He spent time in Colombia previously, and his Spanish is very good.
Before coming to Colombia, Joel spent 10 years with Christian peacemaker teams, mostly working with Canada's First Nations people to lessen violence between Native protesters and the police.
We talk in CPT about civil disobedience and divine obedience. I try to stay in touch with that presence of God within me and obey it.
Once they reach Santa Rosa, both men will act as human shields for Teófilo. They also plan to gather intelligence on the situation for publication on the CPT website.
I think it's really important that we tell the story of what's happening in this Santa Rosa area, because the Colombian government is planning to open that area up for multinationals to come in and set up gold mines. And to do that, they're going to have to displace the people who are already there.
Santa Rosa is a few miles inland. Bob and Joel make the last leg of the journey by taxi. It's not a taxi ride they'd recommend for tourists.
There's always a danger, and the dangers of kidnapping.
In Colombia, not even politicians are immune from kidnappers. Former Colombian presidential candidate Ingrid Betancourt was abducted and held for years after making "No More Kidnappings" part of her campaign platform. Today, thankfully, the two peacemakers arrive at their final destination without incident.
This is the first time I've had a chance to go to Santa Rosa. It's a beautiful town up in the low rolling hills, the mountains.
The peacemakers meet miners and their families but see no sign of the leader they've come to protect. They learn Teófilo is expected to arrive tomorrow.
The people, they have been living in a very bloody conflict for a long time. They've lost many of their loved ones, and yet they carry on. I find that to be worthy of deep admiration.
We're
setting up our women's network in all the different communities, and a lot of us are single mothers, and it's just a lot of hard work. We need a lot of support. We women, we often suffer the worst in war because our husbands are killed or our sons are killed, and we have to be both father and mother, and it's a suffering that is often laid heavily on our shoulders.
Well, gracias.
The males who've survived, like this miner, worry about the enormous scale of government-approved mining projects.
This could bring on an environmental disaster, catastrophe, that could lead to perhaps our children not knowing this kind of life and this kind of environment that we are able to live in. But nevertheless, if our minds, if we're no longer able to mine, we'll no longer be able to live.
Bob and Joel discover that Santa Rosa's priest is not a neutral observer.
Atacar un líder, matar un líder, es atacar toda una comunidad entera.
Attack a leader, to kill a leader, is to attack a whole community.
Entonces, queremos que se defienda la vida, que se respete la vida.
So we want to defend life, that we want life to be respected.
Queremos que se respete la tierra de los mineros, de los campesinos, que no se les expropie de sus tierras.
We want their lands of the campesinos and the miners to be respected, that their land not be expropriated.
Que no vaya a haber masacres.
That there will not be massacres.
Que no haya desplazamiento masivo.
That there will not be massive displacements.
Tomorrow, the peacemakers will try to keep the miners' new leader safe from harm, armed only with the courage of their convictions. Colombian town of Santa Rosa, Christian peacemakers Bob Holmes and Joel Klassen await the arrival of Union leader Teófilo Achunilla. They plan to protect him from assassination by acting as human shields. Teófilo is scheduled to speak this afternoon in a hall at the town's fairground. In the hours before, miners and their families gather to enjoy some recreation. Bob and Joel are well aware they stand out in this crowd, and that's the way they like it.
We wear a bright red hat that can be seen a long way away, and we all wear it's usually a blue shirt that says ACAP, Equipos Cristianos de Acción por la Paz in Colombia, or CPT in other places. It lets people know who we are, and it lets them know that we are peacemakers.
They hope their obvious presence will discourage those intent on violence.
And I think it's actually safer for the armed people also, that we be very obvious who we are.
For Union leader Teófilo, standing out would not be prudent. He arrives quietly, greets the peacemakers, and gives them a preview of his speech.
So
in this mobilization, we've had as many as 1,500 people here, people from all over the region. It's a region that we're experiencing a virtual total abandonment by the state. On the part of health, in the area of education, there's many needs here in the region. So the need has been there for a long time, but then with the killing of one of our members, one of our companions, people felt that they had to go now, and to demand some kind of a response to this murder on the part of, some kind of response by the government. We're here because we want the government to clarify that Alexander Uribe was not a guerrilla, as the army has tried to say that he was. So that because the abuses that the people have been suffering in these communities have been very serious for quite some time now.
As the time for Teófilo's speech approaches, soldiers patrol in the nearby town. It appears that few local people will have the courage to enter. But then, many dare to listen to the man who dares to speak.
My name is Teófilo Acuña. I'm the legal representative of the Agricultural Miners Federation of the South of Bolivar and a member of the Commission of Interlocution of the South of Bolivar.
Por los intereses económicos de las multinacionales y los intereses económicos de los otros gobiernos que no hacen sino traer la guerra a este país.
Bob and Joel watch for impending danger. They know assassins aren't fond of crowds. They expect an assassin to wait until the crowd goes away. After Teófilo concludes his speech, Bob and Joel rush to meet him by a pre-arranged taxi.
We will be taking Teófilo back to Barranca, accompanying him on that route. While we're driving, the danger that we might have is if we're stopped at an army checkpoint. His life would be in danger because the army are the ones who have been causing the problems. Our role would be just to stay right with Teófilo and make sure that the army doesn't take him.
Bob knows just how vulnerable a single vehicle can be.
In Iraq, it was a delegation, and they were coming out from a mosque where they had spoken with the Muslim leaders there. Their car was stopped by a car stopping in front of them. The armed people just took the translator and the driver out of the car and got in immediately themselves, and then drove away with them at gunpoint. So there was nothing they could do. That could happen to us also. They could stop us.
Teófilo and his human shields reach the port where water taxis depart for Barranca. Here the crowd provides some safety, but also a new danger.
Well, one never knows in the port, where there's a lot of people moving around, just who is who. We will stay with him as much as we can.
On the voyage, the peacemakers will stick to Teófilo like glue. His life may depend on it. On a fast-moving river in northern Colombia, Union leader Teófilo Achunia makes a perilous voyage home after giving a speech critical of his government. His companions, Christian peacemakers Bob Holmes and Joel Clausen, accompany him as human shields. They scan other boats for uniformed men with guns.
The armed people will stop you and just say you can't go any further and hold you, literally detain you because you are interfering with what they're doing.
After nearly 2 hours, the port of Barranca comes into view, as does a Navy patrol boat. Crews like these, armed with AK-47s, have been known to board water taxis and drag people away, people who are never seen again.
We're a bit concerned that if we stop there, that they might ask us to get out of the boat, and we certainly would get out with Teófilo and stay with him and make sure that he's not abducted.
The peacemakers have a contingency plan.
Both of us would not be arrested or detained if we could avoid that, because it's good to have a backup person who then can get on the telephone and begin to do whatever needs to be done to draw attention to what's happened.
But this time, the Navy patrols veer off. This time, their water taxi reaches shore. And this time, a people's leader will live to speak out another day.
And we thank you because your presence here, your accompaniment here is very important for us so that we can feel safer. And that it gives us hope, gives us faith and a sense of security.
There's a psalm that says justice and mercy will kiss, and that's my dream, is that somehow we will help bring that to fruition in the places where we work.
Just has a very encouraging presence. He just has a way of kind of making me feel good about the work that I do. He knows nonviolent action from a faith perspective, from a particularly Christian perspective.
Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice. Blessed are those who are willing to take risks to bring about justice. Blessed are the compassionate. All of those things. And I draw my own strength from saying, yes, that's the way I think we should live. Blessed are the truth seekers, the pure of heart.